Hey guys, and welcome to Daily Deco. Question time number 5. I hope everyone is all right today. Happy Friday, everyone. It's nearly the weekend. Oh, how are you today, Marky Mark? You all right?
I'm okay. Yeah, still have my little cough. But yeah, otherwise all is well and dandy.
Have you done all your Christmas shopping yet? Is that all done?
Yeah. Yeah, actually everything. I've got like one present that still hasn't arrived yet. It's in the post, but yeah, I am all sorted.
Excellent. Well done, you.
Yeah, try to get it all done during like Black Friday week. Like try and get as many like special deals as possible. But yeah, no, we're all sorted.
All right. Right, let's crack on. Let's get straight to it. Let's get some questions in. So the first one is, as I said last week, there is one chap. Nick, we said London, but that's not his name. He left us a direct Instagram message and he had several questions. So I'm starting today's episode with one of his questions. And before I do that, actually, today's episode of Daily Deco is sponsored by our Teespring store. Ooh, emotional bolt snap. Lovely, lovely. Anyway, so yeah, Nick London, or Nick LDN, is CCR diving the future of scuba diving? Is CCR diving the future or even the present of tech diving, given the price of helium? Mark, over to you.
Yeah. I mean, we're never going to do away with open circuit, especially in like entry level. But yeah, especially for deep diving, because there is a limited stockpile of helium sort of on Earth. We only have so much of it, and with the increase in like gender reveal parties and releasing balloons, yeah, they're using all our valuable helium.
I love it. They're using. It's not the other way around.
How dare they? Yeah, I mean, saturation divers, they're probably going to sort of stockpile the sort of the last remaining stuff. But for sort of deep diving, yeah, closed circuit is probably the way forwards, because the machinery is just going to start sort of adjusting your gas to your depth. Yeah, I think. I mean, it's not going to be in the next like 5 years or 10 years maybe, but yeah, I think CCRs are going to start becoming a bit more prevalent sort of earlier on. We've started to see quite a few semi-closed rebreathers sort of coming out for like the recreational market. So yeah, the next sort of decade is going to be sort of quite interesting, and you'll probably see more and more sort of rebreathers moving into the more recreational side of things, definitely into sort of technical diving. Yeah, as you say, if you're moving into trimix, the helium costs are just bonkers. You have to remortgage your house and everything. So yeah, no, I can see a lot more yeah, sort of closed circuit stuff coming into it, because yeah, you just have a gas mixing panel on your back, and the whole reason of sort of helium is basically to sort of water down the oxygen, but you can just breathe down the loop on a CCR. So yeah, you'll probably start to see them start to more and more sort of enter the market, and then the price starts to sort of drop as the technology becomes a bit more basic. So yeah. But there's always going to be open circuit because it's just so robust. So for recreational diving, you probably won't see too much of a change, but for technical diving, yeah, you'll probably see more and more sort of rebreathers instead of open circuit.
That's cool. That's good to know. It'd be interesting. Yeah, I mean, taking it from the bike incident, I know this isn't as technical, but like with e-bikes, they were very not frowned upon, but they were very not in the past, but like a niche thing. You know that you didn't get many e-bikes, but more were made, and then because more were made, they got cheaper. So then they got cheaper, then they got more mainstream. So obviously it's slightly different for rebreathers because of how deadly they can be. You know, so education and training really is vitally important with that. But yeah, you know, the more they're made, the more people use it, the cheaper the materials will be. But then again, you know, it will be a case of with the finite amount of helium on there in the rest of the world. I mean, from the rec side, I'm sure that's going to be fine. But yeah, like the tech side, if more and more people do that sort of thing, they're going to have to try and find another solution potentially. But that's a whole different conversation.
Yeah, when you can literally see your money like exhaling in a bubble up to the surface, then
you're trying to catch it and then put it back on.
Yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, that's pretty cool. So the next one is from a B. Lee. They left a question on that Let's Talk About Snorkels video. He says, one thing I was wondering why a scuba diver actually has a snorkel.
So a lot of divers don't bother with snorkels. There are 3 main reasons for sort of bringing a snorkel. So the first one is your sort of initial surface work. So if you're surface swimming out to a certain dive site and you're sort of face down in the water, you don't want to be wasting your bottom gas just on the surface looking down. So if you swap to your snorkel, you can still breathe, but you can see in the water and you can kind of see where you are, where the shipwreck is or whatever it is you're heading to, but you're not wasting any of your back gas. So yeah, that was the sort of the initial kind of reason for a snorkel. Another one is getting out. So a lot of divers, myself included, we just use our sort of regulator when we're getting back onto the boat, and that's quite a good way for sort of airway control, so that if sort of a wave splashes over, it doesn't really matter because you've got your regulator in. But a lot of divers, they use their snorkel, and that just means that their airway is sort of that much further away from the water's surface. So even if a wave kind of splashes your face, it's not really the end of the world. You can still breathe. So if you're getting back onto a rib, you take your BCD off, you hand that up to the boat handler, snorkel goes in so you can still breathe, you can still keep your mask on so you can still see. If a wave hits you, doesn't matter. Your airway is that much easier to sort of control because you know exactly where that sort of opening is. And for in-water rescue breaths, they're quite useful. Mainly a basic snorkel like this guy here. It doesn't have any valves on it, nothing, but to be able to sort of hold the mouthpiece in the victim's mouth and then blow into their mouth, you can do sort of in-water rescue breaths. But other than that, and obviously snorkeling, because after a dive I'll often sort of jump in the water and sort of snorkel around. That's what they're mainly there for. But having it actually attached onto your mask during the dive is a little uncommon. You don't tend to see it a great deal, to be honest.
There we go. Hopefully that answered your question, Bealey. Question number 3 is from Dazafet. Awesome name there. They left a comment on Daily Deco. Are there any plans in the future to open a physical store in Kent again, or will you remain as digital only?
No, I don't think there are any plans. No, it's catch-22. There are pros and cons to having sort of physical dive centres. At the moment, no, I don't think there are any plans to open up a physical dive centre again. It's all sort of new company do this. No, I don't. Especially not in Kent as well, because Kent was it's kind of the bottom corner of the UK. It's not that accessible, so it wasn't that sort of convenient to have a physical sort of place there. It does have some benefits, both for people and sort of for us to have a physical dive centre. It's good to sort of have this kind of showroom to actually get sort of divers in and to sort of interact with them. It's good for the divers because they get to physically touch and feel stuff before they buy, and they get that sort of face-to-face interaction so that they can get the right equipment and advice. But the added costs and all that kind of stuff is not really kind of worth it, and especially in this modern day and age when you can sort of get pretty much all the information that you need for most of the dive equipment sort of online, and then you can sort of make your decision and sort of buy it online. It means that you don't have to travel. It means that you don't have to mix socially with people, not just because you're antisocial, but because you don't want to sort of spread any communicable diseases. No, I don't think there are any plans to open up a physical, tangible sort of dive store I think we're going purely digital now by the sounds of it.
Yeah, they're very environmental conscious, the new company that we work with. So if they try to do it where if they can keep their footprint as low as possible on and anything and everything, you know. Also as well, at this moment in time, we can't even stock our website fully. So
no,
like if there ever will be a store, like in the future, it will be years and years and years and years and years and years and years.
Yeah.
But again, that's not how this company works. The company that we work for, they are digital.
Yeah, but even beforehand, the Simply group, who we were beforehand, a good like 95% of our sales was done online anyway. So no, I don't think it's.
Do you remember before COVID happened, there was actually a talk about shutting. They were actually going to close down the store anyway because it was going to become our studio.
Yeah, it was discussed physically closing the
they
store.
were just going to have like a pickup centre, weren't they?
Yeah, we did work out the pros and the cons, and for the amount of space that a physical retail shop takes up, it wasn't that beneficial. So we were already in talks to get rid of it anyway.
Yeah,
it's one of those things. You kind of have to roll with the punches and the modern day and age.
Definitely.
And the future is digital. Yeah, and that's why we do a lot of the sort of videos that we do, so that you can get the best experience of someone handling a product, so that you can almost kind of sort of go, oh, okay, yeah, so that is the snorkel. That it does have that kind of flex that I'm looking for. It's the right kind of size and color. You almost don't need to go into a store because you have that video and someone explaining it, and then you can just go, yeah, that's it, link, bing, buy, done, happy.
Also, those videos though, they do work and they do help out local dive centres, so you can get all the information that you want. And then again, if you don't want to buy it on the website, you can use our advice or someone else's advice to then go to your local dive centre to purchase it. So it does. Yeah, like Mark says, the future really is digital, and the way things are, digital is the best, sadly. But again, you can use that digital information to help out your local dive centre as well, which, as we all know, is super important in these weird times that we're having right now. Anyway, I hope that answers your question. So the next one is a rather long one. His username is very interesting. So it's Extreme Uber Fluisine Lang name.
Fluisglanger name.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, so he contacts us direct on Facebook. He says, "Hey, I'm about to get my first regulator set, and I have a few questions. I'd like you to answer. The first one would be if those rubber hose protectors really recommendable? I've read those don't extend the lifetime of the hoses, but reduce the flexibility of the hoses. What do you recommend?" And I want to say, as you said in the video, which again, I'm not too sure what video to say, he contacted us directly on Facebook, to tie my alternative second stage around my neck so I can give my primary second stage to my buddy. My question about that is, what colour should I use for my second stage hose? Yellow for the one in my mouth. I would want him to take all one around my neck, because I was told that the Octo is yellow, so the buddy who needs it can directly find it. And as the Scuba Pro Mark 25 Evo DIN 300 with the G260 is a bit overkill, or is that a bit overkill for normal sports diver? Because I probably won't use the transmitter or side mount in the coming few years. I hope you can understand what I mean, and I hope that can help. So basically, rubber hoses, are they good? Should he invest in them? And then,
it was rubber hose protectors, wasn't it?
Protectors, hose protectors, are they really recommendable? And the second one is, what if he has the necklace style, what type of hose basically should he have? And colour and stuff.
So rubber hose protectors, they're fine. As much as they restrict sort of hose movement, it's only for like a couple of inches. Personally, I tend to take mine off, just because the benefits don't outweigh the costs of it. So hose protectors are good. They're basically there to stop that one section of the hose right next to the ferrule, the metal section. They're meant to stop that from bending sort of in one position over and over and over again, and then eventually cracking on that kind of hinge joint. The hose protector kind of keeps that rigid, but it can sort of just shift that a few inches, so the next section of hose just sort of bends. But the other main downside is that water gets underneath them, but then after you take your regulators out of the water, it doesn't drain there because of surface tension. It holds the water in there, so it just can sort of rot your hoses. So I just tend to take mine off. So that's why I tend to sort of avoid them. As far as using a primary donate and sort of what color your sort of alternate or which one, both of mine are black. You can go for whatever color you want. In real world scenarios, I've never found the color to make that much of a difference, especially in a long hose primary donate, because when someone comes up to you and they're out of air, you're so so like regimented and sort of practiced in just boom, donate your primary. They don't care what color it is. And also, if you're buying an octo version of a second stage, a lot of the time they'll be set up slightly differently. They'll normally be slightly stiffer, so they don't free flow if it's on your hip. So yeah, I think all of my second stages are just black. Yeah, the hose, you can go whatever color you want, to be honest.
Cool.
There are some circles of like technical divers who have blue hoses for inflators and then yellow hoses for alternates, and the color of the hose means a lot to them. It doesn't mean anything to me. Just go for whatever style you want. So I wouldn't worry too much about oh, this one has to be yellow. It doesn't matter. Just go for whatever you can get hold of.
Cool.
And Mark 25 G260, lovely regulator. It's not overkill for a sports diver. It's I like the G260. I was very close to buying a G260 instead of my my XTX 50s. I quite like the kind of the metal sort of bezel and the sort of industrial style of the G260. It's got that nice like storage mode where you can push the purge button in and twist it a little bit, and that just takes the pressure off the seat, which is quite nice for long-term storage. But yeah, I'll be quite happy. Next year you'll probably see a carbon fiber G260 though. If you want something a little bit lighter, then keep your eyes out for that. But no, I'd be happy with a G260.
Cool.
It's basically the S600 but with a different face. That's about it really.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. Hopefully that answers your question. The username I cannot pronounce. Like I said at the beginning of the show, completely scripted, I did not forget. Today's episode of Daily Deco is sponsored by our very own Teespring store. Obviously, Teespring, we have our own designs that we upload every couple of months. As Mark's showing you right now, even though it was on my face, but never mind. So t-shirts, hoodies, face masks, snoods, phone cases, stickers, you name it, we've got loads of designs on there. So go over there, fill your basket up to the brim, and then at checkout you can use the promo code Daily Deco. I can't even speak today.
Daily Deco.
Daily Deco. I've had one of those days. Morning, should I say? It's been a bit of a pain. Anyway, yeah. So you can use the promo code Daily Deco, and then you get 15% off. If you're a regular watching Daily Deco, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Yep. If you're not, just click on the link that's pinned in the comments, buy something, and then you'll get 15% off. As of Christmas, if you're in the US, I believe shipping is still okay for you to get your stuff in Christmas. Outside of the US, I don't know. I'm not too sure.
No promises.
Yeah, no promises. But again, if you're just buying something for yourself, you're treating yourself. That's absolutely fine. But yeah, so maybe by this weekend, try and order something for Christmas. You might be lucky. Outside of this weekend, probably not. But anyway, like I said, go over there, fill up your basket, and then at checkout, use promo code DailyDeco to get 15% off of your total order. Boom, done. Let's get on with the questions. So, question number 5 is from one of our regulars, Christos. I can never say it. Christos, ZS.
Yeah, Christos.
Yeah, anyway, he left a question on last week's question time number 4. That's right. Number 4, because this is number 5. It says, what's your opinion about PSD diving? Why is it so hard to find a dive centre to get this speciality? Is it worth it?
Yeah. Awesome. PSD is public service diving, which is more like search patterns and that kind of stuff. You're basically searching for dead bodies and all that kind of stuff.
Nice.
I think at that kind of level, then it becomes more sort of industrial. So if you're doing it for like police or fire, then then they're not going to call on like Joe Bloggs because he's done his PADI PSD course. They're going to go for people that are firemen or firefighters and sort of police officers who are dive trained and done kind of all of that. I imagine it changes depending on where you are, but in the UK especially, yeah, no one's going to just go for just a diver off the street who provides a cert card. So it's one of those courses where it's too far in the like almost commercial side of diving to sort of be that sort of beneficial to sort of divers. So no, very few dive centres are going to offer it because, well, no one's really going to sort of take them up and sign up for a course. It's interesting. It's sort of learning a different way of diving more as a job. But to be honest, the people who really are going to be using these skills, they do work for emergency services and they do have their own kind of training that they go through. So yeah, it's less of a civilian position, as it were, and more sort of someone who physically works for emergency services or something. It's not really something that you'll find using that sort of ticket very often, which is why you don't find too many dive centres offering it.
That makes sense. Cool.
Yeah.
So next question is from RV Billy. He left a question on the Let's Talk About Snorkels, but it's not actually about snorkels. He goes, what are the pros and cons of having a custom dry suit versus a shelf size? Also, I'm diving a Scuba Pro Seahawk. The BCD is that's what he says, way too big for me. It's a large and I'm very skinny, 6 foot male, so it's pretty loose in the chest and waist. I want to move to a steel backplate wing setup. Any decent budget suggestions? So dry suits and backplate wind setup suggestions.
Yeah, so as soon as you go from off the shelf to made to measure, you're just adding, I don't know, £200 to your bill. So a lot of manufacturers will they'll try and get you in and off the shelf as much as possible. One, because it's easier for them. It's less likely for this like custom obscure sized suit to come back because they don't want that to come back. So it gets more expensive. It takes a lot longer because they are literally making a suit from scratch. So it can almost double your wait time, and you're suddenly in the tens of weeks. You're counting months instead of weeks for your dry suit to turn up. Bear in mind that a lot of off-the-shelf sort of dry suits, when they're sort of ready to be made, they basically make the entire suit, but they leave the wrist, the neck, and the boots off. So they just have these like sort of empty suits, and then when someone places an order for one, they basically take that size and fit the boots that you want. At that stage, they can take off a certain amount, which doesn't sort of help if you're sort of long and skinny. But yeah, if you're short and round, you can sort of have it adjusted a little bit at that stage, and that usually doesn't cost any extra. As far as finding a dry suit that fits you, and when you're sort of long and skinny, go for front entry dry suits, because the torsos are usually telescopic to allow yourself to get into it, so they normally have a greater sort of height sort of variance, so it's a bit easier for you to get into your suit. This is a common problem for people who are quite tall.
Yeah, tell me about
because
it.
As soon as you start to sort of go up through size charts, of course the suits get wider as well, and this is probably why he's ended up with a huge BCD, because by the time you get a backplate that's kind of long and comfortable enough, the waistband is like huge. So if you're moving on to sort of backplate and wing setups, you're thinking about budget, then just go for a solo piece of sort of webbing. Cheap as anything. As soon as you start adding like pinch clips and adjustable buckles, that's when your harness starts to get really expensive. Just go for a stainless steel backplate. Doesn't have to be anything overly fancy. Webbing is cheap as chips, and then you can buy your own hardware. You only really need 3 D-rings and a quick release buckle and some sliders to go with it, and that's pretty much it. In some ways, people think that sort of backplate and harness sort of setups, they're super expensive, but actually no, the backplate itself, I don't know, you can probably get one for about 80 quid. The harness, 20 quid, and then the sort of harness, the hardware, they're pretty cheap as well. So you're not really breaking the balance. So with that bit, it's only when you get to the wings and then you have all the different attachment points, that's when it starts to get a bit more sort of complicated. But just stick with a standard like DIR style single piece solo harness, and they're darn cheap. So that's the way I would go.
Cool, excellent. Sounds like the correct way. Or you could go old school and just get a road sign and cut that up. Isn't that what they used to do?
Yeah. So the original sort of backplates were like old road signs that were literally they were like that's about. Well, it's a sensible thickness, and they just kind of punched the holes where they needed, and hey, that does the job.
There you go.
That's actually why a lot of our backplates are 13 inches tall, because that was the height of most road signs.
That's fantastic. Cool, man. Well, I hope that helped you out, mate. I'm sure it did, RV Billy. So the next question is from the greatest username ever, Stiggysaurus.
Yep.
Well done, mate. He left a question on question time number 4. He says, "Hi, Mark and Sean." I didn't actually add that in. He actually said my name. He says, Yeah. He says,
and spelled correctly.
Yeah, I know. That's why I like him. He's got a cool username and he can spell Sean. He says, "Love your channel and the ability to listen to your videos as a podcast." If you didn't know, guys, we are on a podcast. You can get us on all types of podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, the usual podcast blurb. Anyway, could you discuss using your dry suit versus a BCD for primary buoyancy control? I know these two camps on both sides seem to be extremely unyielding on their choice, kind of like the politics in the US, unfortunately. But I would love for Mark to give his insight on the topic. Thanks, and happy holidays.
Yeah. So when you move on to dry suit diving, obviously you have your BCD, which you can inflate and deflate, and that controls your buoyancy. You have your dry suit now, which you can inflate and deflate, which can control your buoyancy. So for me, I literally sit on the fence with this, because there are two ways of sort of doing it. So there's one camp which basically says, you use your BCD for your buoyancy, and your dry suit is just kind of also there. I don't think there's too many of those kind of people. The other side of the extreme is where as soon as you go under the water, you only use your dry suit to control your buoyancy. But you use your BCD on the surface. I kind of sit in the middle, in that kind of grey area, where at the beginning of the dive, I empty my BCD, I empty my dry suit, and then as soon as I get turned down to like 10 meters or something, I sort of relieve the squeeze on my dry suit and sort of get a nice amount of insulation. But then after that, I tend to use my BCD. The main reason for that is that with the way that my BCD is primarily set up is to give me a good trim and a sort of horizontal position in the water. So in the first like 10 meters, I'm just relieving the squeeze in my dry suit because that's where the greatest pressure change is. So I'm getting the insulation into my dry suit, but I'm not thinking too much about my buoyancy at that stage. If I'm then going down deeper, I'm then using my my BCD to sort of adjust my buoyancy. The downside to that is in a runaway ascent, I have two different sort of buoyancy sort of air pockets that I need to vent. My dry suit is automatic, so I don't really have to worry about that. My BCD is a reflex anyway, so yeah, I don't mind using both. So I literally sit in the middle. Yeah, first 10 meters, I'm using my dry suit just to give myself a bit of gas, that insulation to keep me nice and warm, and it does add a little bit of buoyancy. My dump valve is open about halfway, or sort of where it sort of feels most natural. So as I'm ascending anyway, in a horizontal position, it naturally just kind of vents and kind of bubbles out as I need it to, and then yeah, as I start to get really shallow, I'm venting off my my BCD. So yeah, I use both. You do whatever is sort of most comfortable. If you feel like you're getting a bit of too much squeeze, then add a bit more into your dry suit. But the more you add into your dry suit, the more likely that gas is to kind of shift down to your feet, or sort of move around and adjust your sort of buoyancy a bit more radically, which is why I like to use my BCD, because that's what's going to hold me in a nice horizontal trim.
Cool. If you have any other thoughts, or what do you guys do, dry suit versus BCD? Let's drum up the conversation in the comments, and yeah, hopefully we can explore it. Maybe if we get enough info, maybe it could be a video for a future time. Maybe. Yeah. It's that hot.
It is an interesting topic. And yeah, I think there are certain camps. I mean, I always taught years and years ago, BCD on the surface, dry suit underwater, but it's whatever's most comfortable. After I kind of sat back and kind of thought about it, you're like, well, actually my BCD's there and it's designed to be a certain shape so that when there is sort of air inside of it, it's made to hold me in a horizontal position. So why wouldn't I use that underwater?
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, as I say, let's have a chinwag in the comments below. Hopefully that answers your question, or at least puts a different thought in your mind about how to use it.
Yeah.
Cool. So we got one more question. There is no bonus question this week, Mark, considering you're not using a jam jar as a coffee mug.
No, I've got my Apex mug.
Nice. I've got my my polar bear Christmas mug, but unfortunately it's a Starbucks one, so it's a bit. I know. I'm sorry, guys, but you know, a cute little polar bear.
Unsponsored.
Yeah, it is unsponsored. But if you do want quality coffee in the UK, I highly recommend Cafe Nero. So next question is from Sean or Scene, but it's fine. We're going to call you Sean. I can get away with those sorts of things. Glenn Dinning. He left a question on Daily Deco. He says, "Hi guys, great videos as normal." You're welcome. Just wanted to ask a question. I'm currently debating over two undersuits, the Fourth Element Halo 3D and the Senti BZ400X. I dive in the UK waters all year round. Which one would you recommend? Could you possibly do maybe a versus video in the future? Thanks again.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if they still make the Halo 3D because the AR is coming out fairly soon. I don't think that's too much of a spoiler because the AR was announced like
you've just broken the internet
a year ago.
Mario.
Yeah. let's cut that bit.
Halo 3Ds probably are still available though, aren't they? There's probably somewhere that still sells them. So
yeah. But I'd probably hang out a little bit because the price is probably going to drop down as soon as the AR comes out.
Well,
so
that's
people
very
want
true.
to get rid of stock. I mean, I use the BZ400X personally. So yeah. Have I ever worn a Halo? I don't think so.
That's because you're not an angel, mate.
No. So I use the BZ400X. I didn't go for the heated version just because I'm still on the fence about sort of heated undersuits. But the regular BZ400X, which is the unheated version, yeah, touch wood, it's fine. I love it. and it's always kept me nice and warm. The Halo 3D, I have heard very good things about it. It basically has sort of mesh panels in sort of key areas that are sort of compression resistant. So it's very, very clever.
I'm guessing that's where the 3D comes from.
Yes, but I think the price just made it a little bit sort of outside the realms of like sort of recreational casual diving. I mean, the BZ400X isn't sort of particularly cheap, but I like it. It's got decent flex sort of under the arms. It's always kept me nice and warm. It's got pockets, which are always a godsend on dry suit undersuits. My one has braces. Which I've never had braces on an undersuit before. I'm still unsure if I like the braces on my undersuit. It is quite nice because it holds the bottom up in the right place, but when you've got that and your dry suit braces, it feels a little bit weird having two sets of braces on. But yeah.
There you go. That's the correct. I'm just going to edit this question, and then it's just going to be you going.
Yeah, either or will do you fine. I don't think one is substantially better than the other. You'll be happy with both.
Yeah, they both did.
Yeah,
I guess it all depends on price and style, really. What's going to be comfortable for you at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think the Santee comes in a greater range of sizes. I could be wrong. It's been a while since I looked at the Halo 3D. I just know that Santee has like 54 different sizes. I think I'm a large long. I'm an LL. I don't think it's literally 54. I think it's about 20 something. But instead of like small, medium, and large, you get small, short, small, tall, and all that kind of stuff. I'm an LL, which is a large, long, I think. And yeah, so they're a bit more sort of custom to sort of what body shape you are. And the BZ400 is a bit more of a traditional undersuit. It's a little kind of quilted, and it's a bit more a sort of traditional style. Touchwood, I've never been cold in it. I think I've had water in my dry suit, and that was fine. I think I had a leaking valve sort of on one dive, and yeah, you only notice when you get out.
You weed yourself, didn't you?
Yeah, well, it was in that area, but it was not warm water, I promise you. But yeah, the Halo 3D, I have heard very good things about it, and it's more the kind of the technical scientific way of doing it. It's kind of stripped down, and it has this like body mapping kind of sections. So your thighs have this kind of protection over it, whereas the BZ400 is a bit more kind of all-round cover. But yeah, horses for courses. Personally, I went for the BZ400X. But yeah, I'd be perfectly happy diving with a Halo 3D. Just do be aware that there's an AR version coming out. God knows, maybe next year. I don't think it's even on their website yet, but yeah, there's an upgraded version which they say it uses argon technology, but they never specifically say argon. But I know they were playing about with sort of using sort of gas modules in their fabrics. Yeah, I was talking to one of their head honchos years ago at Eurotech, and yeah, they were talking about like ceramic beads and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, just trying to work out how to make a more effective undersuit.
Cool.
Fourth Element, love all that kind of stuff.
Nerds.
Yeah.
But that's what they need to have, and that is it. The questions are all done. So, if Mark answered your question today, I hope you gave you a lovely answer. Always opened up the palette a little bit more to give you more to think about when it comes to scuba diving. Again, if you have any questions, you can pretty much pop it on any video that we have, because then we can go to the comments tab on YouTube and we select it. Yeah. Obviously, a couple of today's questions are from Instagram and Facebook direct, so directly message us if you want, or again, just leave a comment on one of our posts, and then we'll find out. And if we think, or one, if Mark can answer it, and two, if we think it warrants like if we think that the question itself is important, that maybe everyone should know it, then we'll pop it on the Q&A. So send us messages directly, send us messages on or posts on videos. We've got it. And again, obviously today's episode was sponsored by our Teespring store, so get 15% off of all our scuba diving merch using the promo code DailyDeco at checkout. I'm Sean, I've been your host today. You've got to say this though, Mark. We've established this last week. You have to sign off and then I have to sign off because it's weird otherwise.
As always, thank you for watching, everybody, and safe diving.
Stay classy, scuba divers. If I just went black then, it's because my phone timed out. So sorry about that. Technology does not like me today. It took about an hour, guys, just to switch my computer on. Bye.